Right, nice big empty garage today, but not for long, I'm hoping. So for those of you guys that follow along and you saw the last version of this series where we just kind of film whatever happens to come in, and I'm a lot less selective on looking for really good diagnostic case studies or something to challenge our electrical and diagnostic skills. If we end up having a car with a flat tire that we got to plug up, then so be it, and we'll just film whatever comes in. Now, the last time you remember, this turned out to be a little bit of a disaster, as one of the cars that came in had an intermittent steering problem. We weren't sure what was going on with that, but then once we duplicated it, we found after a really long, complicated diagnosis that it had a bad electronic power steering control module. That was the right call. After a few days, the owner of the car did get the money together to get a new electronic steering control module, which after installing, the car no longer has any steering issues anymore. So definitely the right call on that, but it kind of dominated the entire video. And what I'm hoping to do this time is get back to a little more variety where we don't have one thing that controls the whole video. Case in point, the car that is on its way over right now has some kind of engine noise that the owner is very concerned about. That is all I know. So hopefully this isn't going to be like an engine rebuild or something like that. I have no idea, but I asked him bring it along and we'll take a look at it, and hopefully it's something really minor. All right, not that it matters, but it is like minus 13 degrees today here in Denver as we've got this massive cold swath that's going through the nation. So you guys in the United States, most of you are familiar with this. So I am really hoping that we can do everything without having to test drive the cars and have the garage doors open and everything like that. So hopefully we can stay comfortable and warm here. Speaking of which, because I don't want to get my nice, really cool check engine light shirt that was sent to me by a viewer all dirty and everything, let me take care of that right now. All right, there we go. Get my nice toasty warm Disgruntled Mechanics Channel sweatshirt from my friend Mike over there. Anytime that I'm afraid of getting my clothes dirty, this is the proper wear, in my opinion. You also make sure you don't want to get your Scanner Danner swag dirty as well, because when you buy any Scanner Danner swag, that goes to a really good cause where he's helping less fortunate people get into automotive technology to help build careers. With Mike, if you buy his swag, I'm just hoping he buys himself a new tire changer after seeing one of his videos where he used a Harbor Freight tire changer, and quite honestly, it almost made me want to sell everything in the garage and find a new hobby. All right, this car should be here any second now, so we'll come back once it arrives. Oh my God, I swear it honestly must have dropped more than 30 degrees in this garage just in that short time I was pulling the car in and had the door open. It is way too cold right now to work, so I need to let my heater catch up and warm up the garage, so we'll be back in a minute. But if you noticed, I didn't hear any engine noise on this car. Said that it sometimes happens when you first start the car. Sometimes it's a little bit worse when it's cold outside, all kinds of variables. I didn't hear anything. Of course, the car's warmed up. It just arrived. We'll have to take a closer look at this, but I don't hear anything like a mechanical internal engine knock or something that really worries me, but we'll have to take a little listen to it. Maybe actually the car will cool down in this garage for a while too and make the noise again. But yeah, right now I don't have anything to go on. So we'll just come back in about 15 minutes when the garage warms up. We'll get to work. All right, since this is a typical day in the garage, if I wasn't filming, I show some things that I normally don't on the videos. One of them is I do like to keep track of my friends and other people's cars and everything, so that if, for example, we replace a part on this car and then the part fails within a year, I can easily look up the car, pull the receipt, get the warranty information, and do things like that. So that's one of the things I always do. So I'm going to go ahead and get a record of this car because I have not actually seen this one before. This car is actually from the guy that does my dry cleaning. He owns a dry cleaner here in Denver, so kind of cool. All right, let me go ahead and get him things set up here, and then we'll try starting the car, see if we can get the noise. So one of the first things I'll do is I really like this website, Decode This. Allows me to enter the vehicle identification number and get some information on the car, what year it is, what model it is, what subtype and trim level and all that, to make sure that I match parts for the correct car. Has all this information on it that can be real helpful. Other things that I'll look at, particularly with this car having an engine noise. This car actually, I think has a timing chain. So I'll look up information like that generally, just to get kind of a better idea when I hear the noise, what kind of potential variables I can be looking at. All right, maybe I should pop the hood and put the microphone on there, but I'm just going to take a listen real quick. One of the things you'll notice, I always roll down the windows first thing I do after I bring the car in, and that way on an older vehicle there's no chance I accidentally lock the keys in the car or something like that. Even though I do this as do-it-yourselfer thing, I really try to, I don't want to give like a less than professional appearance on it. People generally, a car is usually their second most valued possession. And when they drop it off to some asshat who does this in a hobby, they're worried enough as it is. You can imagine the lack of credibility I would get if I'm like, oh, hey, I locked your keys in the car by accident. Can you come by with a second set? So I try to prevent anything that would make me look stupid, which is very hard to do, by the way. All right, let's see here. There we go. Oh, I hear it. Totally. Okay, we'll stop that before that sound improves, and let's give you guys a listen to it. That's going to be some kind of a pulley loose or something. It sounds like a rattling pulley to me. We'll give you guys a listen here. Pulleys and everything are over on this side of the engine, so let's give you a little camera angle there, but I'll try to put the microphone close for you guys. I do believe this is going to be fairly minor. Grab a flashlight here as well. One thing I noticed, this belt is in horrible condition. The serpentine belt has lots of cracks in it. Let me see if I can give you a look at that. So one thing for sure, going to be replacing this serpentine belt. Look, those deep cracks, and what you're looking for, a couple cracks here and there is okay, but we've got parts where there's cracks in a straight line all the way across the belt. That's where a belt is going to break. Where each rib is cracked in a straight line across, that is a major weak point. All right, let's start this car. Hear that? Oh, I hear it now. Well, it kind of comes and goes, but there's a rhythmic, loud sound. There it is. Let's see if this cover will come off. Make a little better angle here. Well, we've got some interesting things here. These are things that I just kind of notice. In taking that cover off, one of the things I've noticed, that ignition coil in the center has been replaced before. Oh, I just happened to notice the other thing too. This is nothing to do with this video, but over on my paid channel, we are doing diagnosis and understanding on digital mass airflow sensors. And one of the things is, for that video, I actually need an analog mass airflow sensor. And one of the things that I may do off camera, well, no, I can't do it off camera because I'm not filming today, right? I'm just showing what I would do on a typical thing if I wasn't filming. Well, if I wasn't filming, I may want to collect some data off that MAF sensor just for my video series that I'm doing on mass airflow sensor diagnostics. And if this is an analog MAF, that's going to be very useful. So other than that, let's get to the main thing. The most important thing is getting this guy's issue taken care of. And that noise you could hear, there's a loud noise that intermittently comes and goes from this pulley area. And if I had to guess, I would say that it's probably a water pump. If this car has a timing chain, The water pump will be external, I believe, on this vehicle driven by the serpentine belt. If this, however, is a more typical thing I see with Toyotas where you've got a timing belt in there, the water pump is driven internally, and this would be a little bit of a thing to do. So how do we determine where that noise is coming from? Well, the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to remove the serpentine belt and then start the car up again, see if the noise goes away. If the noise goes away, the noise is associated with something on the serpentine belt. And then we'll just manually spin each pulley and see if we can find which one is responsible. That's my strategy. So I'm going to get the serpentine belt off, but it does look like there's a belt tensioner pulley right there. You guys know how to remove a belt, I am sure. So let me get this belt off and then we'll see if our guess is correct here. All right, typical day if I wasn't filming. So I think I found what may be the issue here. And unfortunately, I run into this from time to time where sometimes I feel like I'm not getting the full story here. But on the tensioner here, the bolt for the tensioner pulley just spins and spins and spins, never tightens up. It's very clear someone was in here before and stripped it. And my guess is that maybe it's just the pulley is really loose or something. But yeah, but it just, all it does is just spin and it never tightens up so that I can loosen the tension on the belt. So, all right, so what I'm gonna do is just try to remove the whole pulley, and then we'll just have to tap a new hole with a larger bolt or something. And maybe all this is just a loose pulley. We'll see. All right, looks like I got the pulley off now. And it's just a little aggravating because I don't do stuff like this really anymore. I really just don't do a lot of this mechanical kind of stuff. I try to really keep it more to the diagnostics and everything. But the thing is, I can't let this guy go with a pulley that's probably going to fall off. And it's kind of a miracle he made it this far over here. All right, let's get that out of there. Come on. Okay, so now with this pulley out of here, I can easily get this belt off and we can continue on with our diagnosis. So let's get this belt out of here. One of the things I also do typically to make things easier over on my board here, just made a really crude map of the routing of the belt so that I can just very quickly put it all back together again. All right, let me get this belt out of here and let's see if this noise goes away. All right, there we go. Got the belt out now. If we take a look here, what you do, you bend that belt backwards and you can see all these places like right there where you've just got cracks straight across all the ribs. This belt is just about ready to fail. Ooh, that's a bad one right there. Okay, so while I'm here, I can maybe reach in. I'm gonna spin these pulleys, the ones that are remaining, see if any of them make any noise, or if they feel gritty, or like the bearings are wearing out. And they actually feel really good. This does appear to be a water pump pulley right here. And it feels very smooth and makes absolutely no noise at all. Some of these other ones, I'm going to have to get the tire off of the car in order to reach them. Here's an AC compressor. That's quiet. Alternator, really quiet. All right, we've got one idler pulley down there. Oh, I'm lucky. I'm lucky. So if we look here, that right there is the tensioner where I just removed the pulley. You can barely see right in the middle of my fingertip there, the bolt hole that's stripped for the pulley. And the beauty of this is that it is actually in the tensioner itself, not in the engine block. So all I need to do is replace that tensioner to fix that stripped pulley bolt. So I am very happy about that. That is way easier than tapping out a new hole. So we'll get a tensioner for this thing, and that may be all this needs, quite honestly, except for the fact you want to think logically here. And that logical thinking is that I want to see if I can very gently, because this guy takes care of my really expensive clothes at the dry cleaner, right? So I want to make sure I don't tick him off too much, but I want to try to see if there's a little more here. I'm more inclined to believe someone was in here before and stripped that bolt. And if someone was in there before, were they pursuing this noise? Which means that most likely that pulley wasn't damaged before and the noise is from somewhere else. Or maybe they were just trying to replace that bad serpentine belt. I don't know, but I just get a feeling there's a little more going on here. So I may go ahead and call this guy and see what I can dig up when I tell him what I found here. But the first thing I want to do before I do anything else, let's start the car and make sure that that noise is completely gone. This guarantees us that that issue is associated with the serpentine belt and the pulleys. All right, yeah, it's a lot quieter now. That sounds normal. Yeah, that engine is quiet. Get real close to it here. Yeah, no longer rattling around. So I'll call the customer, let him know what I found, see if we can get a little more detail. But right now I'm liking this. This looks really, really minor. The other nice thing about it too is that this should be very, very inexpensive for the parts. And I gain the guy's trust because he's thinking this is going to be a major, major, major repair when actually it's going to be probably like $50, right? All right, let's get this wheel off here and check all of our pulleys. All righty. Hey, Dave, it still works. Little reference there. I do that every time because I always think of my first viewer ever on the channel some 10 years ago, Dave, who has got a channel on do-it-yourself repair of all kinds, from automotive to around the house, goes by Spelunkered. And I remember when I got this thing, he was a little critical of it in that the battery life will never last. I will tell you, this is still the original tool, the original battery, and I use this all the time, and it still works. So every time I do that, I always think of Dave. It's the one time, only one time, that I think arguably he may have been wrong about something. But this little DeWalt Impact here, one of the best things I've ever owned. All right, let's see here. So now I can reach in, spin my power steering pulley. This idler pulley I couldn't reach from the top. I will tell you what, all of these pulleys are really smooth. Now I'm wondering where this noise is coming from. Oh, I know where. Hold on. It's probably from the tensioner pulley. Oh, it is. Awesome. Give you a listen here. Hear that? This tensioner pulley is bad. So that makes this really easy. I'm pretty sure all this car needs is the tensioner, which I hope comes with the new pulley. But I am going to go to the auto parts store. We are going to just simply replace the tensioner so I don't have to deal with tapping a new hole for the stripped bolt. And we'll run this thing again and see if it works. All right, well, this is how it goes sometimes, but this isn't going according to plan. So the issue is, the reason why I think that the bolt was stripped is that somebody didn't recognize that this is actually a reverse thread on this tensioner. So they probably tried to loosen it, didn't realize they were tightening it, and then stripped it. And that's my guess. But the problem is I don't have a left-hand thread kit here for tap and die or my thread chasers, so I can't fix the issue in the tensioner. And the reason I want to fix the issue in the tensioner is, now that I take a closer look at it, the tensioner is bolted in behind the AC compressor, so it is a bit of a deal replacing that tensioner part, and it's part of a whole kit anyway, like this right here. So I wouldn't be able to even just get the pulley anyway, at least as far as I can tell. But it doesn't matter, because I need to replace the whole tensioner for sure. And you can see that this bracket here, right here, sits your AC compressor. So it's not that big of a deal. It's just a lot of wrenching, but it's just annoying. The other thing you'll see, it's actually kind of expensive too. All right, so as you can see now, instead of this being what I was hoping would be like a little $60 thing or something, is around $300 or so. And that brings up a thing you want to be very careful of if you're doing stuff for your friends or whatever. You want to make sure that you don't overpromise on, you know, hey, here's the good news. It's a bad pulley. It's going to cost 60 bucks. Yay. And then you find out you run into this situation. You want to make sure you do all your research first, look up exactly everything you need to do, what's involved with it, so you get a really good estimate of the parts needed, the time, and that way you don't come back, again, that professional kind of appearance, and go, hey, okay, so I made a mistake. Now that I'm putting it back together, I realize that actually I was wrong before, and it's not just 60 bucks, and now you've just, you know, lowered your credibility, you've lowered the customer's expectations now of you, and it's just not a great thing to do. So I'm going to call the customer, let them know what we've got here. Right now, I'm not even going to bring up the thing about the bolt being stripped and everything. If he knows about it, if he did it, then he's going to kind of appreciate that I never brought it up and it doesn't get awkward, because it doesn't matter at this point. I know what is needed to fix this car. It doesn't matter why it got to that point because of somebody's screw up. So we'll just take the high road here and we'll get this car fixed. All right, once again, this is just not going according to plan, so I do have to get that whole tensioner assembly in order to fix this stupid little thing with this noisy car, and the tensioner assembly is not available until tomorrow at noon. That's the earliest I can get one. So this car is basically dead in the water right now. While I was at the auto parts store, we've got our next car coming in, which will be a lot more up my alley for sure. I'm more excited about this one. Looks like we may have an intermittent parasitic draw issue. A guy at the counter was trying to return a battery after the new battery has an issue with his daughter's car, where overnight the battery is dead and the car will not start. And he's saying that this consistently happens all the time. The guys at the auto parts store, of course, were like, oh, you're in luck, this guy right over here. So the first thing I did was just went out there. We did a quick test on the alternator. The alternator is working. And I said, well, it sounds to me like you may have parasitic draw. And after explaining to him what that was, he agreed that seemed to be reasonable. Doesn't happen all the time, he says. But he says for the last 2 weeks, it's been pretty much every single day. But it also didn't happen last night, which is interesting because it was like 15 below zero last night. So sounds intermittent, but it's on its way over here pretty soon. And we will go ahead and see if we can figure out what's going on over there. That one should be more fun than this. So for this one, we'll just leave it parked here. And then for the parasitic draw one, I've already got an idea as I was driving back. Maybe we can take advantage of this super cold weather. We'll just take a break for today, get that car in here, let it sit overnight in the really cold temperature. And then what we can do is take the thermal camera, and the thermal camera should easily be able to see if we've got any circuits on that could be draining the battery. So I think that'll actually be even more sensitive to do with this extreme cold weather right now. So we can take advantage. So I think what we'll do is we'll, I've got one more thing to do though. You know what I'm gonna do? One more thing before we close out. I remember one of the things that I need for my other video is an analog MAF sensor. I just wanna check real quick and see if this MAF sensor on this car is analog or digital. So since I'm not filming today, this is what I would be doing in the garage. That is the last thing that I will do today. So maybe you can just look over my shoulder. We'll take a look and see if we can find out. All right, we're just gonna make really, really quick work of this. Not even gonna look up a wire diagram. We're just gonna figure this out, because even if this turns out to be a digital MAF, that's okay, because what we're doing on that other video, I still need to figure something else out with the digital MAF, because the digital signal with the square wave, if we measure voltage, is actually going to be completely useless. Well, not completely useless, but pretty useless. And I have something else I want to figure out anyways. All right, let's see here. I need a back probe. And this is very typically something I will do when I am not filming. And that is learn how to do some of these things. Let's see, what do I like here? There's a blue with a white. I kind of like him, actually, for whatever reason. Let's take a guess here. Probe the blue with the white. Well, no, that's going to be some kind of power because I'm already at a 10-volt scale. That's measuring 12. So that's 12-volt power in. That is not what I want. That's interesting that that's blue and white. So I guess this red one that I thought would be the power in might possibly be something more significant. Okay, there. That is going to be what we want. It looks like it's going to be analog, doesn't it? I can capture a couple of screenshots with this. Okay. Let's get a capture here. Yeah. Okay, that's what I needed. All right, so we go back here and we've got our 4 volts on our max. A little bit low. I'm going to say that there's a good chance this mass airflow sensor is actually probably dirty on this vehicle. But the point is we need a comparison with the digital versus the analog.